In 2003, the United States was the top trading partner for more than 90 countries. It dominated global commerce, dictated terms, and acted as the gatekeeper of the world economy. The US dollar was king, American companies ruled the supply chains, and Washington had unmatched leverage over both allies and rivals. Fast forward to 2025, and everything has changed. China has overtaken the US as the #1 trading partner for over 120 countries. And we're not talking just the global south. Germany, South Korea, Australia, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, they all trade more with China now than with the so-called leader of the free world. If this trend continues, and let's be honest, it will, then by 2035, China won't just be at the center of global trade. It'll be the undisputed anchor of the global order, setting the rules, writing the deals, and leaving the US clinging to nostalgia. Back in 2003, the global trade map was painted red, white, and blue. According to IMF and WTO trade data, the United States was the largest trading partner for almost the entire Western Hemisphere, plus most of Europe and large parts of Asia. That made sense. The United States accounted for 21% of global GDP and had just entered the 21st century as the world's economic hyperpower. Fast forward to 2018, and the cracks were already visible. China had become the top trading partner for more than 75 countries, overtaking the United States across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. By 2021, that number had crossed 100 countries, and as of 2025, it now stands at over 120. This is more than a symbolic win. Trade is power. The country that supplies your energy, your electronics, your steel, your medical equipment, that's the country you listen to. In the United States, it lost that leverage. Not because it couldn't compete, but because it chose not to. It chose to lecture instead of invest, sanction instead of partner, and bomb instead of build. While the United States spent the last 20 years on wars, regime change, and bloated military budgets, China was, well, busy building things. The Belt and Road Initiative, which was launched in 2013, became the most ambitious global infrastructure project in modern history. Over $1 trillion was committed to roads, ports, railways, pipelines, and fiber optic cables spanning more than 150 countries. In Pakistan, China funded the Gwadar port, transforming it from a fishing village into a strategic hub near the Strait of Hormuz. In Kenya, it built the Nairobi-Mombasa Standard Gauge Railway. In Sri Lanka, it took over the Hambantota port. And yes, it now controls operations for the next 99 years. The West mocked these deals as debt traps. But what did they offer instead? A US drone base? Another IMF lecture? China offered development. America offered debt and democracy lessons. One got ports, the other got protests. And let's not forget speed. While the US Congress debates budgets for 10 years, China shows up with shovels and breaks ground in 6 months. While the United States was, caught up in debates over funding for Amtrak, China was busy opening 40,000 kilometers of high-speed rail and completing mega projects all around the globe. Let's call it what it is. The US strategy in global trade has been, well, to threaten, punish, and isolate anyone who doesn't play by its rules. It weaponized the dollar, abused the SWIFT system, and tried to tariff its way back to dominance. Remember the Trump tariffs in 2018? They weren't just slapped on China, they hit Canada, Mexico, the EU, India, Japan. Friends or foes, it didn't matter. The US was lashing out like a fading empire having a tantrum. What was the result? American farmers got crushed. Supply chains collapsed. Countries started looking for more stable, less arrogant partners. And who was waiting with open arms and signed contracts? Beijing. Let's also not ignore the fact that the United States pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, trashed NAFTA, and undercut WTO authority, while China signed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the world's largest trade deal, in 2020, including 15 Asia-Pacific economies and accounting for nearly 30% of global GDP. The United States left the table. China took the chair. Take a look at the 2025 numbers. China is Brazil's #1 trade partner, accounting for over $150 billion per year in bilateral trade. Germany now trades more with China than with the United States, with over $250 billion per year in volume. Saudi Arabia sells more oil to China than to the United States and is actively pricing future contracts in yuan. Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, all more deeply tied to Chinese exports and investment than to Washington. Even Mexico, right on America's doorstep, is exporting more to China than ever before, thanks to China's global supply chain moves and nearshoring strategies. China isn't just buying, it's building factories, distribution hubs, and logistics centers everywhere. The US still trying to figure out how to fix its own ports. Now here's the knockout punch. This isn't just about trade, it's about technology. While the United States gets caught in political gridlock and moral panic, China is rapidly taking the lead in the industries that will define the next 50 years. As of 2024, China filed over 60% of global AI patents. It has more AI researchers, more data, and more deployment across military, healthcare, and logistics. Huawei and ZTE provide 5G infrastructure for over 80 countries. Meanwhile, the United States doesn't even have a domestic 5G hardware provider. All right, let's dive into the realm of green technology. China, as you know, is a powerhouse here. They manufacture a staggering 80% of the world's solar panels and an impressive 70% of electric vehicle batteries. Plus, they control the entire rare earth supply chain. It's something the West desperately needs, but just can't produce on their own. Now shifting gears to electric vehicles, companies like BYD, NIO, and XPeng are not just competing with Tesla. They're actually expanding their reach globally. And get this, in 2023, BYD overtook Tesla in global EV sales. Quite a feat, isn't it? Moving on to the fascinating world of quantum computing. China's Zhujiang 2 quantum computer has made waves by demonstrating supremacy. It solved problems that would take supercomputers thousands of years to crack. That's just mind-blowing, isn't it? Despite US export bans, China's SMIC is now producing 7-nanometer chips domestically. It's behind, yes, but catching up way faster than the West expected. And unlike Silicon Valley, China isn't wasting time trying to reinvent Twitter. It's building the core technologies that power economies, militaries, and civilizations. As if falling behind in trade, tech, and diplomacy wasn't already bad enough, the US is now actively accelerating its own decline by waging tariff wars on literally every one of its trading partners. In April 2025, President Trump announced sweeping new tariffs on imports from China, the EU, Mexico, South Korea, Vietnam, and even Japan. These aren't targeted sanctions, they're blanket economic warfare against America's own trading partners. We're talking 25% tariffs on cars, 50% on semiconductors, and up to 60% on Chinese tech products. The idea? To force reshoring of manufacturing back to the US. But what it's actually doing is pushing countries further into China's orbit. If you're a country trying to grow your economy, why would you do business with the US? A country that threatens you every election cycle, slaps tariffs on you when it's politically convenient, and forces you to pick sides in a Cold War it created. These tariffs aren't protecting American jobs, they're destroying America's credibility. They're pushing traditional allies like Germany, Japan, South Korea to diversify their supply chains away from the US, and more often than not, into China's hands. So, while the United States keeps pulling the trigger on its own foot, China is showing up with deals, stability, and long-term planning. It's laying all to putting itself in the position to lead the world over the United States. The bottom line is, the United States used to dominate trade because it built the post-war system. But now, it's tearing that system down out of fear while China is quietly building a new one, on its own terms. China is now the world's top trading partner. It's becoming the world's top tech power. And it's earning the world's trust by doing what the United States couldn't do. By 2035, it won't be about China rising. That era will be over. It'll be about China leading, while the West asks itself how it let this happen. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for future